Tom, are you okay?
I lost her.
Her?
She was going to be this epic, trilogy-worthy character. I was going to be the hottest writer in Hollywood. But I can't get past Act 1.
You need some writers group therapy. Hello and welcome to Writers Group Therapy.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Rachanee. We're writers helping writers. Are you ready for your session? The doctors are in. And if you like what you hear, you can find us on Writers Group Therapy online, also at WG Therapy on Twitter, and our individual handles. I'm at Rachanee Lumayno.
And I'm at Tom_Loveman.
And we are so excited today to have Kari Nissena joining us. Welcome, Kari.
Hi, Kari.
Hello, good morning.
So Kari is a coach with Actor Transformation. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, well, basically, for the most part, I help actors and industry transform their careers, whatever that means to them. So I tend to coach on the topics that people have a hard time getting help with, like IMDb or getting on red carpets or getting free press for their career. It's funny when someone comes into this industry, they're usually all about the craft, but no one's ever taught them about the business side of the business and how to get seen.
Very true.
Right? And I always say they cannot hire you if they do not know you exist. And it's such a simple concept, but it's hard to get to be known in Hollywood or wherever you are, in this industry. So getting those kinds of marketing tools and getting press and all kinds of stuff like that, it's so important.
You mentioned IMDb, which is the first place I go when I'm trying to learn about someone in the business.
Yes.
But you actually coach people on how to appear on IMDb.
Wait, first we need to define what IMDb is, just in case people don't know.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. If anybody doesn't know what it is, it's the Internet Movie Database, and it is the resource for pretty much for everybody in the industry, TV and film, where people go to research movies, TV shows, the players in those projects, and it's also basically they consider it like an encyclopedia of everything that's ever happened in the world of TV and film. So it goes back, the credits in there go back over 100 years.
Wow.
To the first films. And it's one of those things that people don't always really understand how important it is, because it's like we are in IMDb with Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley and everybody that's ever been successful, pretty much. If they're famous, even if they're not an actor or a writer or a producer, they're probably in IMDb.
Wow.
It's very interesting. It's such a great resource. And it's different than anything else in the world, because we're talking, millions upon millions of users. So sometimes people say, oh, well, I'm okay because I have this other website or I have my own website or whatever. And I'm like, it's not the same, because this is a place that people go to find people that they don't know. They'll go to your website if they know your name. But with IMDb, they might find you because they're looking at the PA that you worked with 10 years ago, and then look at that movie and then click on the cast or click on the crew and then find you kind of through the looking glass, to find you through going down that IMDb rabbit hole, basically. So it's really, really important that people put their best foot forward on IMDb. It also affects everything else in your marketing, because if you have, like, let's say the bio that you put up on IMDb, well, that gets picked up on Google. And anytime you're doing an interview on a red carpet, or you're talking about the film you just wrote or whatever, usually they're going to use IMDb as a resource to not only do their homework and see what you've done and who you've worked with, but maybe to find like a piece of trivia to talk about or whatever. It's like there's a lot of information on there. And I think it's really important for writers and other industry members that are not necessarily actors. I think sometimes like directors, producers, writers sometimes think that they don't need to kind of plump up their profile, but everybody's looking. And it's not just the industry too. That's what's really interesting is your fans are looking at it.
So that's a good, I like how you call that plump it up. What are some of the top things, the most important things writers should do to plump up their profile?
Okay, well, this is for everybody, for writers too. Okay, I suggest that you have at least 7 pictures. Okay, because that's what is the very first impression. When someone looks you up, they see immediately if your presence is filled in. And if it's not, then they'll see that right away too. So 7, the magic number of 7 is basically what they'll see without going in deeper into your photo gallery. So the 7 pictures appear right away. So if you're a writer that doesn't have like a lot of people think like, well, I don't have professional headshots, I'm not an actor. It's like, that's okay. We are in the age now, it's like the wild, wild west and the internet where pictures have taken a whole new beast on the internet, where just on Instagram alone, you're expected to have some decent pictures, no matter, even if you're an accountant in Ohio, much less the industry. So, so I would say get 7 great pictures, and that doesn't mean headshots, by the way. Everybody in the industry should have one good professional photo at least, but that can be behind the scenes pictures. That could be if you have a table read. That could be if you, let's say you're a playwright and have, let's say, a really cool production shot of the stage with you and your whole cast. That could be a party, a red carpet. That could be you talking to your director. It can be a lot of things. It could even be just you writing. Okay, you get someone, you get a friend to take a picture of you at your desk, make it look professional and good. But there's all kinds of ways that you can get really good looking pictures that show this is a body of work. That's something that's a little different with IMDb, is that it's a history of your profession, where on other websites, we have to keep it current and everything like that. But with IMDb, people are like, if you go to Meryl Streep, you'll see pictures that are 40 years old because it's stills from her movies from 40 years ago. Okay. So it's remember that they think of it as an encyclopedia of everything TV and film. And for those of you writers who are not, like, let's say you're working on your first screenplay or something like that, or you come from the world of stage, there is a section in there called Other Works. And that's specifically for the things that wouldn't qualify for an official, IMDb credit. Like if it's a movie, that can be in the database. But there's another section where you could put that you wrote this play, or there's this audiobook, or there's, you wrote a novel or whatever. So whatever your writing is, you can still make the most out of your IMDb.
That's funny. That actually makes me think of 2 separate questions, both off of what you said here. So what if you're not published? What if you're just, starting to write your screenplay, but you haven't, published a play, you haven't, shot the film yet, nobody's buying your stuff? Do you still put that up on IMDb, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I would. Because work begets work, right? Sometimes people need to see proof that you're a professional before they even hire you. It's that weird catch-22 that we all deal with. So there is a section, if you're paying for IMDb Pro, which is their paid version, then you have a whole other section where you can add like theater and things that wouldn't be in the other area, kind of like typing it out, sort of like a hard copy resume. You go credit by credit. And those are not considered official IMDb credits, but still, for the people who have IMDb Pro, if they look at that, at least they can see your education and your history of work. And most importantly is you got to have your websites and your contact info on both IMDb and IMDb Pro, because then people can hopefully find you and hire you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but like you were saying, so going back to the other section, can you put up pictures without being on Pro? Because I know sometimes fans will put up stuff too.
Yeah, the short answer is kind of not really.
Okay.
That's the short answer. But there are things like if you end up on a really fancy red carpet or in a fancy movie or something, they have other places where like studios can get pictures up there. But for the most part, their stance on it is when you see people's pictures up there, for the most part, it's people are paying for IMDb Pro.
Oh, interesting. I always wondered about that because it sometimes seemed like, at least, I've been in the business for a couple of years now, and it seems like when I first started, IMDb was very fan driven, and I'd be like, where are these credits coming from? It just seemed like anybody could add stuff. But now,
Yeah.
have they kind of tightened the control on that a little bit?
For me, I feel like it's a little bit in the reverse. Like I feel like it used to be a lot harder to get things approved. When it comes to credits in the actual IMDb database, there's there's a process, and a lot of people get really frustrated because they're like, look, I can't get my movie on IMDb, and it's really important. We're looking for finishing funds or something, you know. But once you know how to do it, then now I feel like, oh yeah, it's easy. You just have to, you just have to do the 1, 2, and 3, But it's one of those things that, yeah, you do want to plump up everything possible. And even if, like, let's say you're in the script phase, it's a little bit harder to get it approved. But if your screenplay is in the script phase, you'll see that. You'll see movies that don't have a lot of information yet. Maybe they only have the producers and director and maybe a star attached.
Mm-hmm.
But then it says script, which then people know, okay, this is probably, many years out. So you might see it dated, 2, 3 years ahead of time.
So besides your own pictures and credits and plumping up your profile, what are some of the key things writers should, use to enhance their careers in IMDb?
Well, there's also, on the other side of things, just being a user of it. If you have a pro account, then you can go look up agents, managers. You can look up projects, the details of the projects in pre-production, in production. You could also look up, possibly it can help you doing research for, like, let's say you want to turn a novel into a screenplay. There's a ton of different ways that you can use it. Now, if you don't have IMDb Pro, realize that even though there are millions of industry people using it, there are also millions and millions of people that have no idea what IMDb is that are using it, because they'll be at the dinner table and be like, yeah, what was that movie that Brad Pitt was in with the thing? And nobody can remember the name of the guy with the thing. and so they Google it and it takes them to IMDb. Or they already know, go to IMDb and look it up. IMDb has become a verb.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
So everybody's like, yeah, IMDb it.
It's the first thing on Google on the right-hand side when you search for like a celebrity, actually, sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So most of the time, whether you're beginner or advanced, it's still, if someone Googles your name and your name isn't John Smith, if you come up first few pages of Google, usually it's going to be your website and IMDb are the first two things. So that's another reason to take it seriously, because even for the people who have a grudge against it, like, oh, well, they wouldn't put my film up, or, oh, I don't want to spend that money or whatever. Still, it's important to be like, okay, but everybody's seeing your IMDb whether you like it or not. So you still want to make it look fabulous as possible. And if you're newer, then just do your best, put in your website, for writers, you guys write. So your bio Here's a little tip. Your bio, your first sentence should basically say your full name, what you're known for, and what you do and what you're known for. Okay, that should be the first sentence, because when someone looks at your bio on IMDb, it will be cut off a little bit if it's long at all, and that's all they'll see. But that gets picked up by Google. And so like we said, it's the first or second website usually on your Google search. Still, that first sentence will probably be only the thing. It may be the first sentence or two. Everything else will be cut off. So you don't want your first sentence in your IMDb bio to be, he was born on a small farm, and his mom was an accountant and his dad was a homemaker. You don't want to, nobody cares, because now it didn't even say that you're a professional. It just says that your mom was an accountant, and they still don't know if you're a dentist or not. Okay, so it needs to say Bob Smith is an American writer known for, this film, that play, winning this award, whatever your thing is, whatever you can hopefully brag about.
Wow.
And if you can't brag, then you can also talk about things in generalizations. Like if you don't need to name names of your titles of your plays or your movies or whatever, then you can still say has written 20 novellas, or has a very popular blog, or whatever your strengths are, you want to put right up front on that bio.
I always thought those bios were like computer generated, because I've seen them and I'm like, oh, I didn't write that bio. So you're saying
they are until you put one in, or until someone puts one in.
Wow.
Yeah, and here's another tip. Make sure that if you're doing it for yourself, it still should be in third person, and it should be you want to make sure that the signature is something. If you leave it blank, it will plug in your name that you're logged into IMDb. So if you're putting in your own, you don't want it to say Bob Smith is the best writer ever in the world, signed Bob Smith, right? Which people do this mistake all the time because they don't know better, because it doesn't look like you have to fill it in, but that's important. So when you put up your bio, make sure that it says something professional there and not your name, your production company or something like that.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Well, I feel like we could just unpack so much more about this, but unfortunately we do have to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So if people want to find you online, where do they go?
Yeah, well, of course I'm on IMDb.
I would hope so.
But I'm also actortransformation.com is my company, and usually I have a gift on the home page. So right now I have a free gift PDF download that shows you 3 ways to improve your IMDb. So go and grab it.
All right, you guys all have to check that out. So check out Kari Nissena online. Thank you so much again for joining us, and everybody else, we'll see you next week.